What's up, folks? Sean, the Average Angler, coming at you with another great video. And today we're going to get back into seasonal patterns and techniques that you guys can use to catch more or bigger fish on your body of water. Now, today we're going to talk about one that's really going to be bigger fish. And this is kind of an untapped zone. It used to be fairly popular, maybe not as much anymore. And I've mentioned it before, but I don't think people pay a whole lot of attention to it. Because until you go out and do it and try it, it just doesn't sound all that appealing, I guess you will say. But I assure you, it is very appealing. It's very, very effective. It's a great way to catch fish as we move from fall towards winter. And of course, here at my house, it's going to be almost 80 degrees this weekend. So all the ski boats will be out again. Fantastic. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button down below. Love to have you part of the channel. 5,000 subscribers, we're going to do a big giveaway. I've got a box set off over here. And this is starting a collection of things to add to that giveaway. So who knows? We'll see what we end up with there. I've got some viewers sending stuff in, so I may do a couple things, okay? A couple packages, whatever. All right. So today we are going to first, I just got back from the tackle shop, so I picked up a few things, getting ready for my seasonal stuff. I want to just show you guys a few things that I got. This one's really cool. This is a custom painted edition, 6 cents. I believe it is the DD500. Really cool color. This is very popular here in California, Clear Lake, a lot of our other local lakes, Berryessa. In the fall and winter time, and even in the spring, early spring, before they come up out of deep water, that craw color, and they just don't offer it in a lot of deep diving baits. All right, this was something interesting I ran into. And you'll see right here, this is Japan Tour Edition. So I don't really know what's different other than maybe the colors are a little bit different or something. This one's called Green Pumpkin Shad. My fish really tend to like the green pumpkin. So I just got these because they have the green back. Maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be the same. Maybe it will be worse. I don't know. But I like trying things. All right. One of the things that I found that I've been really interested in trying, this is the Missile Baits Roll Eye, or Eye Roll Jig. Okay, this is the jig that I'm going to be really careful with these because they are $5.50 per head. Oh, this sport sometimes, I tell you, things are getting pricey, man. This whole bag was pretty expensive, but I did grab a few things off the clearance rack. That crankbait, for instance, was originally 26 bucks, and I got it for 16, so. Okay, here is your roll eye head, and I'm holding it upside down so you can see it has a welded split ring. Not really a split ring, it's just a welded eye added to that so that it will move easier than tied tight to a knot. Now the rest of the head actually looks pretty good too. The center of gravity is high. It's got the big eye on the front, which I've always liked as long as I'm using it on a bait that doesn't have an eye. Something about two sets of eyes just kind of trips me out. Okay, double hook keeper, one here in the lead, one here in the wire. So looks pretty good. It is a VMC hook, if I remember right from the package, and I think Missile works with VMC. So look for some feedback on that in time, but I thought it was a cool idea. I got some forward-facing hooks from Decoy here. Now these were the original, how they did forward-facing, where you put the hook in the top of the minnow, and then you use a nail weight, right? Tungsten, lead, whatever, nail weight in the front of the bait. So the original hover style rig. Anyway, these were on sale for $2.99. So I bought a couple packs. Who knows if I use them for that or come up with something else, another rig to do. I like to experiment with stuff that way. And these are probably my favorite A-rig head. And that hook is not near as big as it looks. It's just those are 1/8 ounce heads. So they are small heads. There's not a lot of lead up there anywhere. As you see, it's spread out on the hook. Made by Rod Strainer, longtime friend of mine. Anyway, if you like Rod Strainer stuff, you can get it from Coyote Bait and Tackle. I'll drop a link in the description because I will be showing something else from Rod Strainer here in just a second to go along with our fall to winter pattern. And actually this works right on through winter, guys. So it's one you can have tied on your rod for quite a while. I just got some of the Shrooms, Nico weights, mostly because they had the screw-in ones, and I was looking at the screw-in ones and I was really interested in getting them, but for 6 screw-in tungsten weights, it was like $9. Anyway, all right, moving on to to my fall to winter pattern. And this is not scoping. This is old school. Those who were in the know. And that is slow rolling a spinnerbait in deep water, guys. You see here, this is a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait. Multiple reasons we want a 3/4 ounce. We can let any weight we want sink to the bottom and then slow roll it back. But you got to remember that when you get down 20 feet or beyond, which is where I want to fish these, the light penetration is dissipating. So you need some good vibration. And these have always been my slow roll setup, okay? I got a couple different ones, and the reason I needed to buy some is I hadn't bought any 3/4 in quite a while, okay? They're getting harder to find, not as popular. I don't really want to go tell everybody locally to go get them. I know there's a few local guys that watch my content here, but that's all right. Appreciate you guys watching the channel, and I hope these work for you too. The cool thing about this is it works extremely well from the bank. It's something you can do from the bank. Spinnerbaits come through cover and structure really, really well. So another one I got was just all white with painted blades. Painted blades tend to show up pretty well in darker water. Now my water's not dark. It's actually kind of the opposite. It's fairly clear in most cases, but because the light penetration dissipates as you go deeper and deeper, and I'll throw these down to 30 feet. Really, the biggest thing is letting it fall, get to bottom, and then it's just a slow retrieve back to you, to the bank, to the boat, whatever you might be in, and you're fishing for fish that really aren't seeing any sort of moving baits a lot of times. Now, they could see crankbaits, but crankbaits are substantially different than a spinnerbait, right? You'll see I got two of that one. So that's what we got. So you want to cast out, and most of the time I'm going to use fairly strong line. 15 pound and up, but if I'm using 15, I'm probably going to throw something like a Missouri hybrid or a Berkeley big game whose breaking strength is well beyond. Now, most of the time when I do this, I'm going to prefer to throw fluorocarbon because it sinks better and you'll have a more direct connection to your line. We all know that spinnerbait sometimes can be a little more difficult to get a hook in a fish than some other baits. But you want to cast that baby out, let it sink to the bottom. Make sure you're on bottom. So leave your spool open, let line keep coming off until everything just lays down. If you want to use a trailer, I prefer something like a spunk shad or some sort of minnow, like a cross minnow or something like that. Something that's going to give a profile without a lot of drag. Again, it's going to fall quite a ways. And most of the time I'm going to do this 20 plus foot deep. Now, if you're fishing from the bank, you just want to get in some areas that have some deeper water around, right? Because that's part of the draw of this, is that you're presenting a bait to some fish that are starting to hole up for the winnow. So they're going to use these deeper holes to live in. And you're presenting a bait, like I said, that they're not going to see every day. Now, some other baits you could put down there would be a flutter spoon. A jig's going to be the common one. A shaky head, a drop shot. That's pretty much what the masses are using, right? Is the jig, a shaky head, and a drop shot. So to throw the spinnerbait down in there and get some good vibration and flash, if there's any kind of light penetration, you're preying to a different part of the fish's instincts. And when that blade's spinning, even if it's dark down there, much like when the shad are down there, they're still going to get some sort of flash. Like when the shad is rocking side to side, they will get some sort of flash. Same thing from the blade, not to mention the vibration from reeling that through there. Now, my experience with doing this is that generally it catches me bigger fish in the area too. Part of the reason I'm so excited for this is because, honestly, this technique works extremely well from the bank. Now, when I learned about this, we used to walk the bank. That was all I could do. I didn't own a boat or a kayak or anything else. And we would go to our local reservoirs and typically either by the dam or preferably all the way back up towards the creek side of things where it got deeper. So you didn't want to get to the creek where it was too shallow. You still needed to be somewhere where it's fairly deep. So it helps to know what type of water you're around. And a lot of times we can tell that just by the terrain we're around, right? So we kind of want to be in canyon type deal where we know we've got some water depth. If it's shallow, there's probably people throwing more things through there. Spinnerbait could be one, okay? A 1/2 ounce spinnerbait like this one here just is not going to be near as effective as that 3/4. Okay, that 3/4 is offering you several things. A lot more weight. It's going to get down there quicker. We got a little bit bigger blades here. Well, this one's a Colorado willow, but even the back willow is a size or two bigger on that 3/4. It's also going to afford us the ability to keep that bait lower on the water. You want to feel that spinnerbait hitting some stuff as we're bringing it back. So off bottom, you know, preferably hit some rocks, something like that as you're retrieving it back. Again, it's a slow roll. Those blades with quality components, that's why I love the rod strainer. Dink uses nothing but quality components on there. Those blades spin really, really easy. Slow, slow, slow. Everybody wants to do everything fast these days. Well, this is that time of year, and this is a technique where slowing down is a really good method to put some extra fish in the boat, on the bank, what have you. And I'm not telling you don't fish a jig, because this is something that you can go out and alternate with. I love fishing a jig. I think you all know that. The spinnerbait is another way that I can go out and pair it up with my jig. Throw the jig for a bit, throw the spinnerbait for a bit, right? I tend to throw the spinnerbait first. Now, a jig is also a big fish bait, but it's also a get bit bait. I like to throw the spinnerbait through first, and then I may follow it up at the end for a couple of casts, just depending on how long I was there. If I'm not catching fish, I'm going to move on, whether that's down the bank or maybe to the next point. I really prefer, if I'm in a boat, kayak, if you're out on the water and you can see what you're fishing, I really prefer deeper flats. So if your lake, all lakes have stuff like this. Natural reservoirs, you name it. They all have stuff like this. And it's just deeper flats. So somewhere where it kind of flattens off, it could still be slightly sloped downhill, you know. But if you can find flats like this, and especially if they drop off here into even deeper water, these are what you want to fish. I really like them between 16 and 25 feet. Anywhere in that range is very comfortable for a largemouth bass. And I've caught largemouth out of much deeper water, and especially spotted bass out of deeper water. But these just seem to be very comfort-oriented depths where you're going to find probably the better populations, meaning numbers, more. Now, your biggest fish in the lake, they could be quite a bit deeper. A spinnerbait's a good way to catch them. Okay, spinnerbait is oftentimes either mimicking shad or bluegill. I think we've all heard that spinnerbait mimics bluegill with the flashing blades, all that kind of stuff. Who really knows what they think it is? We all just know they eat it, right? Now, that said, there's no reason you can't throw a 3/4 ounce chatterbait down there and do the same thing. It's not the same bait, though. I will warn you that. It's not going to vibrate the same as a spinnerbait, but I do know that also works. And again, we're fishing for fish with the spinnerbait that really isn't being utilized much these days. Okay, they had 2 colors and only a few of them in there, and no other brands of 3/4 ounce spinnerbaits. Maybe it's different where you're at. This is my local shop. They've been around a long time, since I was a kid. They've been there for over 50 years. So anyway, go out and give this a try. I want to hear that some of you went out and tried slow rolling a spinnerbait in deep water, because I know you're going to find some success, especially if you're in California. This works really well on the spotted bass lakes too, by the way, guys. Folsom, Oroville, Shasta, Berryessa works for all 3 species. One of the few lakes I know where the species actually mix up when they're holing up. It's kind of one of the oddities of that lake, but yeah. So get you a spinnerbait. You don't have to use a trailer. You'll see on the rod strainer here, we got multi-length skirt here. So that will allow that to give an illusion of a profile of a bait fish. Okay, you can pulse it if you want every once in a while. Most of the time when slow rolling a spinnerbait, I try and keep it generally just consistent. You can pulse it every once in a while if you want, much like we do an A-rig to make that thing close and open back up. I just don't find it necessary to do a whole lot of it. As those water temperatures drop, those fish move out to deeper water. They don't need as much action per se, especially quick action, to get them to trigger. And I think with their laziness, they expect a lot of other things around it to be lazy too. All right, Sean the Average Angler, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.